My 18-year-old gay friend waited for me to go to my room. And then he did this. It all started on a night that seemed perfectly ordinary. I thought we were just two friends hanging out, laughing about meaningless things and sharing the kind of comfort that only comes when you trust someone deeply. But as the night wore on, something changed in the way he looked at me, something that carried more weight than a joke or a smile. When I finally stood up to head toward my room, I felt his eyes on me. What happened next would shake everything I thought I knew about us, about myself, and about what I was truly ready to face. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. That way you'll never miss another story full of suspense, emotion, and life-changing moments. Stay with me, because what my friend did that night will leave you questioning where the line between friendship and something more really begins. I never thought much about the quiet moments, the in-between silences after a party, the long stretches of time when laughter faded, when the last of the noise outside my window gave way to stillness. But that night, those silences pressed against me like something alive, something waiting. It was late, well past midnight, and my friend Ryan was still in my apartment. He was 21, a senior at the same university, and someone who had drifted into my life almost by accident. At first, we had only crossed paths at gatherings, bumping into each other in the kitchen or nodding across crowded rooms. But lately, he had been coming around more often, staying later, talking longer. That night, after everyone else had left, it was just the two of us in my small living room. The air was heavy with the scent of half-empty beer bottles and the faint smoke someone had left on their jacket. The only light came from the small lamp in the corner, casting shadows that seemed to linger in the space between us. Ryan was sitting on the couch, leaning back with his arm draped casually over the cushion. He had a way of filling a room without trying, of pulling attention without even realizing it. His dark hair fell slightly into his eyes, and every so often he pushed it back with an absent gesture that made my stomach tighten in ways I didn't want to admit. I busied myself with cleaning up, stacking cups, gathering bottles, pretending I didn't notice the way his eyes followed me. "You don't have to stay and help," I told him, my voice steadier than I felt. He smirked, a small curve at the corner of his mouth. "What if I want to?" His tone was light, but there was something under it, something that made me pause. I laughed it off, tossing bottles into a bag. "Then you're just a glutton for punishment." He didn't answer right away. I felt the weight of his silence pressing against my back as I bent to pick up another cup. When I turned, he was still watching me, his expression unreadable. Not teasing, not careless. Focused. I dropped my gaze quickly, heart beating too fast, and busied myself again. That's how it always was with Ryan. Moments of normalcy cracked open by seconds of intensity one didn't know how to handle. When the last of the mess was cleared, I stretched, glancing toward the hallway. "I think I'm calling it a night," I said. My voice sounded casual, but even I could hear the faint hitch in it. Ryan didn't move. He just nodded slowly, eyes never leaving mine. "Yeah," he said softly. "Night." But when I turned and started walking toward my room, I felt it. The shift in the air, the awareness that his gaze was following me. My pulse quickened. The hallway felt narrower than usual, each step louder. I tried to steady my breathing, telling myself I was imagining things. He was just my friend, just Ryan. Yet as I reached the door to my room and placed my hand on the knob, I heard it, the faintest sound of footsteps behind me. Slow, deliberate. I froze. The silence stretched thick and charged. My throat tightened as I turned my head slightly, enough to see his shadow stretching toward me in the dim light. He had followed me. "Ryan," I said, my voice quieter now, uncertain. He stopped just a step behind me, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him, close enough that the space between us felt fragile, electric. "Can I?" His voice was low, careful, but it cut through me. "Can I talk to you for a second?" The words were simple, but the way he said them, hesitant, heavy with something unspoken, made my chest tighten. I swallowed hard, my hand still on the doorknob. My heart hammered, so loudly I was sure he could hear it. 100 thoughts raced through my mind. What he wanted to say, what I wanted to hear, what this moment could mean. I turned fully then, facing him in the narrow hallway. His eyes met mine, steady and searching, and for the first time that night, I couldn't look away. The silence between us was no longer comfortable. It was charged, dangerous, and full of possibility. "What is it?" I asked, my voice coming out more strained than I intended. Ryan shifted, his jaw tightening, his eyes flicking down for a second before meeting mine again. He took one small step closer, and the world seemed to tilt. And then, just as his lips parted, just as he seemed ready to speak, the sound of my phone buzzing from inside the room shattered the moment. Both of us froze. The noise echoed in the silence, sharp and intrusive. Ryan's expression shifted, a flicker of something, doubt, fear, passing over his face. He stepped back slightly, the charged air breaking like glass. Maybe later," he said, his tone quieter now, almost uncertain. I stared at him, my heart still racing, my hand trembling on the doorknob. The phone buzzed again, relentless. But I didn't move. My thoughts spun, caught between what almost happened and the sudden emptiness where it should have been. By the time I gathered myself enough to speak, Ryan had already turned, heading back toward the couch. His steps echoed down the hallway, leaving me in a storm of confusion. I stood there, breathless, staring at the closed door to my room, wondering what he'd been about to say and why he couldn't. Because whatever it was, I knew it wasn't nothing. And the question burned in me, louder than the phone still vibrating on my nightstand. What would have happened if the silence had lasted just one more second? The morning after that strange moment in the hallway, I woke up with the feeling that something inside me had shifted. Sleep had been shallow, broken by images of Ryan standing behind me. So close I could feel his breath. So close I thought he was going to say something that would change everything. But he didn't. The buzzing phone had cut the silence apart, and just like that, he retreated. I found him still asleep on my couch when I came out of my room. His arm hung over the edge, his shirt wrinkled, his face relaxed in a way that made him look younger, softer. For a second I just stood there, staring, wondering what had been on his mind last night, and why he couldn't say it. My chest tightened as I thought of the possibility that maybe I had imagined it all. When he stirred awake, blinking against the sunlight pouring through the blinds, I pretended to busy myself in the kitchen. He stretched, groaning quietly, and then padded over, his bare feet dragging on the floor. "Morning," he said, his voice low, still thick with sleep. "Morning," I replied, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. The silence that followed wasn't the usual comfortable one. It carried weight, like the conversation that had been left unfinished still hovered between us. I handed him a mug, and he took it with a faint smile. "Thanks for letting me crash," he added, leaning against the counter. "No problem," I said quickly. "You always can." He sipped, his eyes on me the whole time. I looked away, pretending to focus on the steam rising from my cup. Later that afternoon, we walked across campus together. The day was unusually warm for October, the kind that made the leaves shimmer gold in the sunlight. He joked about skipping class and going somewhere, anywhere, just to escape the monotony. I laughed, though half of me wanted to take him up on it. But then it happened. As we cut across the quad, a group of students sitting on the grass called out. One of them, a guy from Ryan's philosophy class, smirked. "Hey, Ryan, where's your boyfriend?" The words hit like a slap. My body froze. But Ryan didn't flinch. He just smiled faintly and tossed back, "Guess you'll have to ask him." His voice was casual, but the implication hung in the air. Laughter rippled through the group. I forced a smile, trying to act like it didn't matter, but inside my thoughts spiraled. Did he mean me? Was it a joke? A deflection? Or was there truth hidden under the sarcasm? The rest of the walk was quiet. Too quiet. My mind replayed the moment over and over, dissecting every detail. His tone, the curve of his mouth, the way he didn't deny it. I wanted to ask, but the words stuck in my throat. That night, I found myself staring at my phone, debating whether to text him. He had gone back to his own place after class, leaving me with more questions and answers. Finally, around midnight, my phone buzzed. His name lit up the screen. "Can I come over?" The message read. My heart slammed against my ribs. I typed back before I could second-guess myself. Yeah. 10 minutes later, a knock sounded at my door. When I opened it, he was standing there, hands shoved into his pockets, eyes restless. "Sorry it's late," he said, voice quieter than usual. I didn't feel like being alone tonight. I stepped aside, letting him in. The tension was immediate, heavy, like the moment in the hallway had never ended. He dropped onto the couch, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "I need to tell you something," he began. His voice was unsteady, almost fragile. My pulse skyrocketed. This was it. This was the moment. I sat across from him, trying to steady my breathing, waiting for the words. But just as his lips parted, just as the truth seemed ready to spill out, a loud knock shook the door. We both jumped, startled. He froze, his face pale. Another knock followed, louder this time. "Police, open up." I stared at him, my mind racing. Police? Why would they be here? Ryan's hands clenched into fists. He looked at me with eyes wide and full of something I couldn't name. Fear, maybe even guilt. Before I could move, the knock came again, harder this time, rattling the frame. I swallowed, my voice barely steady. "Ryan, what did you do?" The pounding on the door seemed to rattle the walls of my apartment. My throat went dry, my mind sprinting in circles. Police? At midnight? Nothing made sense. Ryan sat frozen on the couch, his eyes wide, jaw clenched. He looked like a man cornered. "Open up. Police." The voice outside was firm, impatient. I glanced at Ryan, searching his face for an answer. He avoided my eyes, his fists tightening against his knees. I whispered sharply, "Ryan, what the hell is going on?" He shook his head, almost too quickly. It's not what it looks like. Just don't open the door yet." The knock came again, louder, more demanding. My stomach twisted. Every instinct screamed at me to open it, to prove we had nothing to hide. But Ryan's expression stopped me. There was something there, a shadow of fear I'd never seen before. I crossed the room, my steps hesitant, and pressed my back against the door. 1 second. I called out, my voice louder than I felt inside. "Sir, this is the Boston Police. We need to speak with Ryan Caldwell. We have some questions." My pulse hammered. Ryan Caldwell. His full name. They were here for him. I turned back, my voice dropping. "Ryan, why are they looking for you?" He ran a hand through his hair, finally standing. He looked taller, tense, like a man preparing for a fight. "It's complicated," he muttered. "That's not good enough." I snapped in a harsh whisper. "Complicated doesn't get cops banging on my door at midnight." He exhaled, chest heaving. "There was a protest last week, downtown. Things got out of hand. Property damage. Arrests. I was there, okay? They think I was involved in something I wasn't." The words tumbled out, raw and rushed. My head spun. "Ryan, the guy who teased me about leaving dishes in the sink, who stayed late watching movies. Caught up in some kind of protest chaos? They think you vandalized something?" I asked. His silence said enough. The pounding came again. Louder. "Mr. Caldwell, please open the door now." Ryan's voice dropped, urgent. "If I go out there, they'll pin everything on me. They need someone to blame, and I'm easy. You have to trust me." I stared at him, my heart ricocheting against my ribs. Trust him? The same guy who almost confessed something in the hallway days ago, who had been playing with unspoken truths all week. Now he wanted me to shield him from the police? "I don't even know who you are right now," I whispered, my voice cracking. Something flickered in his eyes then. Hurt. Vulnerability. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "You know me. Better than anyone. Don't let them take me tonight." Before I could answer, a heavy thud shook the door. They were serious now. I knew if I didn't act, they'd come in. I turned back to Ryan, torn. "I need time. Where can you go?" He didn't hesitate. "The fire escape." My chest tightened, but I nodded. I pointed to the window in my bedroom. "Go. Now." He hesitated, his gaze locking with mine, 1,000 words left unspoken. Then, in a flash, he was moving down the hall. I opened the door, just as he disappeared into my room. 2 officers stood there, uniforms sharp, flashlights in hand. "Sorry, sir," one said. "We have reason to believe Orion Caldwell is here. Do you know him?" I forced my face calm, though my veins burned with adrenaline. "Yeah, I know him. He was here earlier, but he left about an hour ago." The officer studied me carefully, his eyes narrowing. "You're sure?" I nodded quickly. Positive. They exchanged a glance, then handed me a card. "If you see him again, call this number immediately. He's wanted for questioning." I took the card, forcing my hand not to shake, and closed the door once they left. The silence that followed was suffocating. I hurried to my room, pulling the curtain aside. Ryan was crouched on the fire escape, his breath visible in the cold night air. He climbed back in, eyes wide, face pale. "You covered for me," he said softly. I closed the window, my hands trembling. I don't know why. He stepped closer, the tension between us thicker than ever. "Because you trust me. You just don't want to admit it." I swallowed hard, my body tight with conflicting emotions. Anger, fear, attraction, confusion. It all swirled inside me. "Ryan, you just dragged me into something I don't understand. And now I've lied to the police for you." He reached out, gently touching my arm. His hand was warm, steady. "I'll explain everything. Just not tonight. Please." The sincerity in his voice nearly undid me. His eyes locked with mine, steady and desperate, and for a moment, the chaos outside disappeared. It was just him, just me, and this fragile thread binding us together. But then a noise outside broke the moment. The sound of a car engine revving, then stopping. Headlights washed across the wall through the curtains. Ryan stiffened, his body going rigid. "They're not done," he whispered. I felt my stomach drop. "Ryan, what are you not telling me?" He glanced toward the window, then back at me, his eyes dark with secrets. "If they find me here, it's not just me they'll take down. It's you too." The words hit like a punch. My breath caught. "What are you saying?" He leaned closer, his voice low, urgent, almost breaking. "I'm saying you need to decide if you're really with me or if I should leave before it's too late." The headlights outside swept the room again. The choice pressed down on me, heavy, impossible. And as I stood there, staring at Ryan, torn between fear and the undeniable pull I felt toward him, the pounding returned, this time at the back door. The pounding at the back door sent a chill down my spine. My apartment wasn't big, just a narrow kitchen leading into a cramped living room, with my bedroom and bathroom off the hall. But at that moment, it felt like a stage surrounded on all sides. The front door, the back entrance, even the fire escape, all of it was compromised. And Ryan was standing in the middle of it with fear flashing in his eyes, his chest rising and falling fast. "Stay here," I said, my voice rough with panic. I moved toward the kitchen, where the back door stood rattling against its frame. Each thud echoed like a countdown. Ryan grabbed my wrist before I could reach it. "Don't," he hissed. His grip was tight, trembling with urgency. "You can't open it." "What am I supposed to do?" I snapped. My voice was too loud, bouncing off the walls. "They'll break it down if I don't." His eyes darted to the window, then back to me. "Trust me. Just give me a chance." The words rang in the air between us, heavy and impossible. Trust him? After everything. The hallway, the silence, the police at my door. He was asking me to bet everything on a leap of faith. Another slam against the back door rattled the shelves in the kitchen. "Boston Police Department. Open up." I stared at him, my throat tight. "Ryan, if you're hiding something dangerous, you need to tell me. Right now." For a second, his expression cracked, the walls he always held up slipping away. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath against my skin. His voice dropped low, barely more than a rasp. I didn't do what they think I did, but I was there. I saw who did. And if I talk, I'm done. You don't understand, they'll bury me, and not just legally. The pounding grew louder. My heart was thundering so violently it drowned out the noise. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. Ryan's gaze locked on mine, pleading. "It means there are people bigger than me involved. People who don't want me talking. If the cops find me here, it won't stop with me. They'll come after you too, just for being part of this. I wanted to scream at him for dragging me into something I never asked for. But under all that fear was something else. The look in his eyes, the desperation, the trust, pulled at something deeper inside me. Something that went beyond reason. The back door rattled again, the handle twisting violently. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't think. I acted. I pulled Ryan toward my bedroom, whispering harshly, "Hide! Now!" He didn't argue. He slipped into the closet, crouching behind the sliding door, while I tried to steady my racing heart. My palms were slick with sweat, my legs shaking. The next slam nearly broke the doorframe. I forced myself forward and yanked it open. 2 officers stood there, flashlights blinding me. One raised his badge. "We're looking for Ryan Caldwell. We tracked him here. Where is he?" Every nerve in my body screamed. They could probably hear my heartbeat. I gripped the edge of the door tighter, forcing my voice calm. "He's not here." The taller officer narrowed his eyes. "You sure about that?" Neighbors reported seeing someone matching his description coming this way. I shrugged. Praying my face didn't give me away. "He came by earlier, but he left. I don't know where he went." The other officer leaned closer, his light sweeping across my face. "If you're lying, harboring a fugitive will cost you more than you realize." The words cut deep, but I didn't move. I held his gaze, my throat burning. "I'm not lying. You're wasting your time." They lingered for a moment that felt like forever, then finally stepped back. "If he shows up again, call us immediately." I nodded quickly, closing the door as soon as they turned away. The silence that followed was suffocating. My knees nearly gave out, but I forced myself back toward the bedroom. Ryan stepped out of the closet, his face pale, his eyes wide with something between fear and guilt. "You didn't have to cover for me again," he said softly. "Yes, I did." I shot back, my voice sharper than I intended. "Because for some reason, I can't stand the idea of you being dragged out of here like a criminal." He took a step closer, his hand twitching as though he wanted to reach for me. "Why? Why are you risking everything for me?" The words hit hard. Why was I? Because he was more than just a friend? Because every time he looked at me, I felt something ignite that I had been too afraid to name? Because I wanted to believe in him, even when everything around me told me not to. I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came out. The silence between us thickened again, heavy with everything I couldn't say. Then he closed the distance. Just one step, but it was enough to close the gap. His eyes burned into mine, raw and unguarded. "I can't explain everything right now," he said, his voice low, rough. "But I need you to know I don't feel safe anywhere else. Only here, with you." The confession knocked the air out of me. My chest tightened, my throat dry. He wasn't just hiding from the cops. He was choosing me, trusting me in ways I hadn't expected. Before I could respond, a sound outside shattered the moment. Not the pounding of fists this time, but something sharper. The squeal of tires, the slamming of car doors. Ryan's face went rigid. He moved to the window, pulling the curtain back just enough to peek. When he turned back, his face had gone pale. "It's not the cops," he whispered. My stomach dropped. "Then who is it?" He swallowed hard, his voice breaking. "The people I told you about. The ones who don't want me talking." The words froze me in place. For the first time, I realized the danger wasn't just legal. It was something darker, more dangerous. He turned to me, eyes blazing with urgency. "We have to go. Now." My body tensed, fear and adrenaline colliding in my veins. I looked at him, then toward the door, my mind spinning. Leaving meant stepping into the unknown, into something that might destroy both of us. Staying meant waiting to be cornered. His hand reached for mine, firm, desperate. "Please, trust me this once." The sound of footsteps thundered up the back stairwell. Shadows flickered under the door, and as my hand hovered in the space between us, tore between fear and the inexplicable pull that tied me to him, the lock on the door began to turn. The lock turned with a metallic snap that made every muscle in my body tighten. My instinct screamed at me to run, but Ryan's grip on my hand pulled me into the moment, grounding me in the storm. The door swung open, and two men stepped inside. They weren't in uniform. Their clothes were plain, but their presence carried weight. One was tall and broad, with a scar running along his jaw. The other was leaner, eyes sharp and unblinking. Ryan pushed me slightly behind him, his body tense. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low but steady. The scar man smirked. "We wouldn't be here if you hadn't been stupid enough to stick around. You saw too much last week, Caldwell. You know the rules." My chest constricted. This wasn't about vandalism anymore. It was about silence, about fear. Ryan had stumbled into something bigger, something that wanted to erase him. The lean man's gaze shifted to me. "And who's this? Your little roommate? Shame. Now he knows too." The words sliced through me. I wanted to shout to deny it, but Ryan's hand tightened around mine, steadying me. "Leave him out of this," he said, voice firm. "This is between us." The scarred man laughed, shaking his head. "You think you get to negotiate? No, Ryan. You either keep quiet or you both pay the price." A cold sweat broke across my forehead. Fear clawed at my chest, but under was something else. Rage. Rage at the way they looked at him like he was nothing. Rage at the way they dragged me into their threats. Rage that after everything, the hallway, the cops, the hiding, this was how it might end. Ryan straightened, his shoulders squaring. "I won't say anything. I just want this to end." The lean man stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. And how do we trust that? Ryan's voice cracked, but he didn't falter, because if I wanted to talk, I would have already. I haven't. I won't. But if you hurt him, his voice grew sharp, dangerous. "If you even touch him, then I have nothing left to lose. And I'll make sure everything comes out." The word stunned me. He was risking everything, his safety, his freedom. For me, my chest ached, heat burning behind my eyes. The scarred man studied him for a long moment, then let out a low laugh. "You've grown a spine. Didn't think you had it in you." He gestured to the other man. "Let's go. For now." Just like that, they stepped back into the hallway, their footsteps fading. The silence they left behind felt heavier than their presence. I sagged against the wall, my legs trembling. What the hell was that? I breathed. Ryan turned to me, his face pale, his chest heaving. That was me buying us time. I stared at him, my pulse still racing. Time for what? His eyes locked on mine, raw and unguarded. Time to figure this out. Time to stop running. And time to finally tell you what I should have said days ago. The intensity in his gaze pinned me in place. My throat tightened. "Ryan," he stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of him. His voice was low, rough, but steady. "You ask why you keep trusting me, why you keep risking everything. Maybe it's because you already know what I'm about to say. I care about you, more than I should, more than I thought I could." The confession hung in the air, electric, terrifying, beautiful. My chest tightened, my breath shallow. "You mean that?" His hand brushed mine, hesitant, trembling. "I've been trying not to, but I can't anymore." Something broke inside me then. The fear, the doubt, the silence I've been clinging to. I stepped forward, closing the distance between us, my voice barely steady, then stopped trying. For a moment, the world outside disappeared. The pounding, the threats, the danger, all of it faded. There was only him, only me, only the truth we've been circling for so long. His hand slid against mine, fingers intertwining, and I felt the weight lift from my chest. We didn't kiss, not yet, but the closeness, the unspoken promise, was enough. It was more powerful than anything I had felt before. Ryan exhaled, his forehead pressing lightly against mine. "I don't know what happens next," he whispered, "but I know I want to face it with you." My eyes burned with tears I didn't expect. "Then we will. Whatever comes, we'll face it together." The night stretched around us, uncertain and heavy with danger. But for the first time, I felt something stronger than fear. I felt the certainty of him, of U.S., of what we had built in stolen moments and whispered truths. As the city hummed outside and footsteps faded into memory, I realized something that changed me forever. Love doesn't wait for perfect timing. It shows up in chaos, in fear, in danger, and it demands to be chosen anyway. And I chose him.